Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah. Yeah. Another classic. Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey, Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey, that's the how it go for the king of disco. Always on the go, rain, hail, sleet, snow. The professional, very bilingual. Blow shit out the frame, aim at the stat quo. Till the ground with a whole R-U-S. The best, never less, confess. Never blow my finesse unless the style of pest molest. 50 shots to the chest to take a toll on the chest. The quest for the grail is stale. For the nails of the Christ contrite. Put the mighty in might. Albert Pike will turn over in his grave. To see the more rise from the ashes of a slave. Behave Neanderthals back to the cave and wave. Till they hold and roll while I resolve like the hay. My style is vague like the Easter egg. Me and the Empress getting paid cause we renegade. Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey, Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey,
open up your mind's eye, let's see why. Empress and Jurisprudence, why so fly? Always high with a vibe that's so live. Find the queen, bring the limousine, oh my. Switch ways all the way to best side. Do or die, never die. Always try the spirit gap. Where you at? Where my stack? Keep my money coming back. Represent the people black. Womb stay intact. Matter of fact, here's a fact. Number one record black. You be whack. I stay legit. Teach the kids to know they shit. Where they come from, godson, be the one son. What you gonna do when the time comes, son? Don't run, son. Stay legit, keep it on the square. Never have no fear. Never have no fear, yeah.
Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey, Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey, I be a star.
I be a set.
We have come to resurrect what you forget.
Back in Connect, I was the spirit of sex met.
I was Heru, and together we reflect.
Yeah, sun and moon, moon and stars, Venus, Mars, here we are.
We the type to flow space, travel far. Shining bright through the night, with stars like Jurisprudence, Empress. You ain't never heard a sound like this. Yeah, that's hot. The bus fit. We the type to bust a shot and never miss. Hey.
Peace, y'all. How y'all doing? We on live now at Super Heru Radio. I am one of your hosts, Ascension Jurisprudence, and my co-host, Selena Empress of 10,000 Years, Amor, Saga Assad. Big up to my brother, Rashawn, who helped us hold the show down with us last Friday. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming in and participating with us again as we've been working and striving to stay consistent. You know, and everybody in the chat, peace to you. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming in and always communing with us, you know, in the somewhat stressful yet spiritually uplifting times. You know what I mean? Also, so let's go. Come on, Emma. You know how it is. This is around the time we start getting ready to get everything popping, so I'm trying to hold it down. Also, anyone who lost any loved ones recently during this past retrograde period, which is very intense. We're going to get into some of that tonight, too. But it's very intense, and this is a time that we need to pay a lot of attention to what energetically we're putting out to people, especially the people who are not the most emotionally stable. And unfortunately, the conscious community has become a haven, almost a rest stop or a way station, if you will, for obsessive-compulsive personalities. Unfortunately, these personalities have propelled themselves or propped themselves up to the top or to the informational disseminating aspect of this quote-unquote movement, and in the process of that, it's creating a lot of confusion and almost information overload with a lot of conscious people. So what we want to do, again, at Super Heru Radio is always strive or work to keep things as not only consistent as possible, but as simplistically as complex as things are. We want to keep things as consistently simple for those of us who are not into all of the extra heavy brain drain activity that goes along with doing the knowledge to some of the stuff we be doing the knowledge to. Can you hear me now? I don't know if anybody can hear me. Let me know if you hear me in the chat, man. Anybody? I hope everybody's hearing me in the chat room, as well as just live, because, I always got to check with Blog Talk, because they'll have a nigga talking, and I don't even know, I'm not even on. So if anybody can let me know, specifically in the chat room, that you can hear me, it would be great. Awesome. Thank you, Sunday. Also, real quick, I want to give a shout-out to a supporter of the show who just posted up some Super Heru Radio clips from some of the shows we did. Brother, I don't know his real name, but I believe I wrote it down. Yeah, it's Deck J2. Thank you, brother or sister, for holding us down and putting up posts about what we do here, about some of the shows that we've done at Super Heru Radio. I really appreciate it, man. I just wanted to say that, as well as to everyone else who has ever supported us, ever thought about supporting us, or ever will. You know what I mean? I just want to definitely put that out there. No, he's not, but. So, as we always start, we'll start from the bottom and then move it up. Wow. Also, anybody that wants to find the exact, being that we cover a lot of ground here, anyone that wants to study or follow behind the situation to understand that the United States no longer exists as its own autonomous country, that it is an annexed version of the United Nations, you can go into the public law of the USC Codes, Public Law 87-297, that basically decides and denotes the fact that the United States is merged with the UN, and it calls for the gradual disarmament of all of the states over a 30-year period. So we're in that 30-year period right now, in which that they're working to not only get guns away from people, but find ways to make the so-called American people more complacent about their dire situation. So anytime that type of information is real good when you're dealing with stuff like, when you're dealing with stuff like barristers or magistrates or any of these people that's trying to act like that they follow in the United States. There's no such thing. And we've been saying it, and I don't know how you can declare your independence or whatever from it when they never really broke away from England in the first place. So we, again, as the conscious people and those people aware of what's going on, we have to find ways to re-establish what it is we already know based on what's going on. You got to go to the bathroom? Let's go to the bathroom one. I'll pause it for you. All right, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? So it gets to a point where, we have to become more and more diligent as to what it is we're going to do and how we're going to reintegrate this information in a manner that's conducive to getting us where we need to go. And we can't do that if we're using wrong statutes and stuff like that no longer apply to a country that never really existed in the first place. You know what I mean? We're not talking about the idealism in America. We're not talking about the hopes and wishes of those of us that exist here and those who came over here for whatever, they wanted to do. We have to understand that the entire immigrant movement was established and was definitely put into proper context in a film called I recently saw called Hidden Colors. And one of the brothers on there basically has been reiterating what we've been talking about too. And it's good that we all can be validations for each other in that way, because it's true. The fact that the entire immigrant / bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free shit, all of that was set up because at the time of the so-called Civil Servant War, of the Reconstruction War, they were supposed to give, or all of that land, all of that stuff was supposed to be receded back to us. When I say us, I'm talking about us as the indigenous so-called Moors or blacks or Tonkinus or native or whatever you want to call it. No, because after this, you're taking it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to also understand that certain movements that came out to make us more aware of our so-called culture was also a means to kind of brainwash into believing that our culture was basically a foreign culture from across the water, meaning the fact that because we have African descent, that in some way that is more responsible or more or better than being born here. Because if you were black, quote-unquote black here, that means, again, that you must have came over here as a slave. But that's just a running joke that's been running ever since the Civil War. You understand? That's not something that is really indelified in fact. Now, this is not to say that things like slavery and all these things didn't happen, but it is to say that if we are referring to ourselves as natural historians, meaning we're dealing with natural history, not American history, not global history, not revisionist history, but the real history and how things started. And that means we have to put in proper context the historical people and personages that we are using to validate arguments about our individual uniqueness. You understand? So it's not as important for me as someone with African descent, even though the term African does not exist. We're just going to use it as a misnomer right now, basically, because a lot of people refer to themselves as that. They want you to always look to Africa for who and what you are, because they never want you to deal with the true ramifications of how the cultures over here, indigenous cultures over here, set the groundwork for a lot of those cultures over there that we now refer to as so-called African cultures. To the point that recently West African nations just put out an edict talking about how they're apologizing to African Americans for slavery. Well, if that's the case, and you apologizing, then you're going to start giving land back? No, because them niggas over there don't even own nothing. Africa is one of the biggest, giantest continents on the planet, and almost all of their exports go to Europe. They have none of their own financial or fiscal imports or exports. Everything is imported out. When their children get older, they go to Europe. They don't stay. And when those that do stay usually go back, but then if they want to have any fundamental changes to try to make the society better in a certain way, they get shut down. That's not me making that up. This is what's happening. And because certain other people have been complicit in projecting false information or how do we say, doctored information as to who and what we are, you know what I'm saying? We're in situations where...
But I can't go to it. I'm so down.
We're in situations to make that happen, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I'll sit with you in this house. Come on, honey. All right. I'll let go, but you're not going to get free. Go into the bathroom because I said so. Well, we'll have to spook you there. Okay?
So, this is how it's going. You know what I mean? It's deteriorating rapidly. But in the process of that, we have to, in a sense, start to big up where we at, man. Just because America, or quote-unquote white America, is fucked up and has been for some time, that does not necessarily mean that the land, the geographic location, the birds, the fowl, the seas, the trees, and all that shit that exists here is fucked up. We had better relationships with nature, with the earth and all that stuff when we didn't have no European erudition into our indigenous lives. And the white man will tell you that. You understand? So what's the issue? The issue is that we have become clinically and it's almost like a substance abuse addict. We've become dependent upon their reality to justify us and validate who and what we are. Now, when I say we, I'm speaking euphemistically. I'm not necessarily talking about those of us in the continent, but then again, there's some of us in the continent that fool on ourselves and think that we're more conscious than we really are. And that's a real reality of the game, too. Because nobody, unfortunately, we've been browbeat so much throughout the reality that nobody wants to act like they don't have the answer. And it takes a very strong individual to stand up and be like, I don't know something. It's actually sometimes more stronger to stand up and talk about what it is you may be lacking in and talk about what it is you're so powerful in. Because you are found worthy and elect by that which you project and put out there. You know what I mean? So a man, a real man, knows his own limitations, what he can deal with and what he can't deal with. And a real man or woman, once they understand those limitations, they're not a limitation on themselves or their psyche, but a limitation maybe as to say, well, I know how much bullshit I can take from X amount of people. And because I know that about myself, I'm not going to put myself in positions to be around people who are constantly bullshitting. You see? That's knowing what you can deal with, knowing what you can handle it, and dealing with that. Not acting like everything is all good, you cool with everybody and all of that. And that does not work. That's not real. It's maladapted just because you're in a conscious state, in a conscious movement, to think that everybody within that movement you're going to get along with. That's not how it works. It's never been that way. There's never been a time when we as global, even when we had a global empire that stretched from Alaska to Chile, that went all the way over from the shores of Montezuma to the halls of Tripoli. Even when we had all of that, we all still wasn't really building, or we all really weren't on the same exact page. You know what I mean? We were reading from the same book, but how we interpreted that message was different, and it should be. So you're not dissing Africa. Don't feel like you're shitting on Africa or the quote-unquote motherland if you don't necessarily identify with all things that may or may not represent African. You understand? Because, again, African, to describe you as an Asiatic person born here is a misnomer. You understand? So you still, again, going from one to the next. You got to watch out, you know. You want to honor your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to necessarily always honoring ancestors that may not be connected to you directly. You understand what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't feel that me saying that I am not an African is me dissing Africa. You understand? But nowadays, you got this, with all of the different versions of black consciousness and Afrocentric movements, but when you really go back and do the due diligence on it, you will find that the Afrocentric movement, or at least the African-centered consciousness movement, had a lot of its beginnings dealing with that Belgian conference that they did in 1881, man. But again, I digress. So dealing with that, they're up in their human-animal hybridization thing, so you got to watch out. A lot of this meat that you get, and some of the meat and chicken and turkey that they're producing actually is coming from modified turkey, bovine, chicken, cow hormones. They're cross-breeding the shit because they're trying to create a form of viral efficacy that will allow animal diseases to cross-generate and manifest in human beings, the same way that they did with syphilis. For people that don't know, syphilis started with people having sex with animals, specifically dogs. And then specifically Caucasoid people in antiquity, even now. Fuck antiquity, they doing that right now. So, you know, you got to watch out for that. You know what I mean? you got to watch out for some of the meat that you get. Make sure that you cleaning it, and you really going, if you're eating meat, stuff like that, make sure you really are really cleaning this shit and getting into the nooks and crannies. Use lemon juice and water. I've been telling people recently, you might want to have your chicken or turkey or whatever you're eating soak in lemon and lime juice for at least overnight before you even prepare it, so you could really burn out whatever's in that shit, you know what I'm saying? Just in case. So that's going on. It turns out that the guy, the patsy that they hooked up for Norway, was actually at one time an intelligence agent for Interpol. So this is also coming out as a clusterfuck for them, in the sense that it's also coming out. Then that means that he may have had orders to help commit that. So we're talking about a false flag thing. You know what I mean? So within that is that. Then what else are we talking about? Let's see. Let's talk about the fact that now the police brutality thing is bumping to the point now where you got brothers, you got the police or the constables out there killing a black man, and the brothers and sisters in UK is up in arms about that shit, to the point they blowing shit up. Big up to Margaret, big up to Shola, big up to Optics, big up to all of our peoples we got out there in London holding us down. They going in. Them brothers and sisters is not having it. Meanwhile, here in America, they shot a white man, ran up in a town in Ohio, ran through and just started shooting mad people, right? But let's talk about the fact that he did it twice. You know what I mean? The same guy. And then all of a sudden, just like clockwork, kills everybody, shoots himself. So if the American populace is not hip to the G already, then I don't know what it's going to take, because these people are wholesale slaughtering and killing people in mass now. They don't care. To the point where the devils, the white male devils, and I'm going to call them that because it's real, the white male devils that was out there during the time of Hurricane Katrina, when the people were trying to get out and out of the way of the levee and the flood, were climbing up the bridge to get away. These devil police that was also connected to Blackwater that they not talking about, because Blackwater was sanctioned and giving gold orders to go there and kill as many black people as they could. Okay? This also went into the executive order and the national emergency that they put out while Katrina was happening through and telling everybody to get to the Astrodome so they could poison them and do what they wanted to do there. Long story short, these black people was getting away, and these straight devil police officers was helping them up the bridge to act like they were saving them, and then shooting them point-blank range in the face, in the head, in the chest, in the heart, in the groin. There's still over 600 prisoners that's still not accounted for behind that shit. And ain't nobody looking for them. Ain't nobody finding. Why? Because they all came from Angola prison. And you know they don't give a damn about them niggas over there. But regardless of who or what, these devils now, these white devil police that did this shit in a federal court were found guilty of shooting the man to death, but they are not convicted of murder. So they were convicted of killing the man, but not murdering him. And it's not even manslaughter. So any conviction they get in civil rights, that shit ain't going to do nothing. They ain't going to get no real time. And what's going to happen is these blacks is going to let them do it. Then, at the same time that this happened, you had a rash of cop killings in New York, where they've been killing niggas in mass. So again, when we talking about black people, when we talking about original people, we talking about what we're going to stand for. I'm showing you the contrast between the fact that this one brother got blasted. Now, I'm quite sure they killed a bunch more over there in England or whatever, but in this instance, the news report is talking about this one instance has sparked this shit where these people running scared. They don't know what to do. So what I'm saying is if we supposed to be more live, we supposed to be more this and more that, what is up with us in the country that we are still allowing this shit to happen? What is up with black people in this country that's still becoming pigs? What's up with that? And they don't even make money. They don't even make no money like that no more. Police. they actually undercut them niggas. So I know it's not about just getting a job, and it can't be about that, because garbage men make more than pigs, man. Garbage men make more than teachers. So if it's really about getting a good job, why don't you do that? All right? No, I'm talking right now. I'm doing a class, okay? Here you go. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do the knowledge that this thing is really out of control, and the reason why this thing is picking up is because they are really working to foment this race war, y'all. The shit is real. They want to get everybody up in arms so that way everybody is popping off and shit. But I don't hear this damn so-called black president saying anything about that. You know how many niggas have been killed since this nigga's become president? In the past 2 years, 350 people nationwide shot up, which means it's probably double that since this nigga become president. Since the time that this nigga, Louis Gates, got his ass whipped, and he decided to have a beer, right? He sat down and had a beer with this dude who descended from Crowley. You know what I'm saying? So you got to really do the knowledge to the fact that they are on a wholesale killing spree for anybody that's like us. So even when I be out here with my son, I'll be looking at these pigs, and I don't say nothing to them. In Miami alone, they done killed 7 people in 8 months, all black men. That ain't no coincidence. This is not just happening. And again, it's young black men. You understand? But then they just caught a racist white boy who was looking with him and his homeboys, looking for a black man to beat up and kill. They find a black man as soon as they turn off. I forgot what state it's in. As soon as they find him, they beat him to death. The black man don't die. He actually now is crawling along the highway to get around. The white boy seen the black man crawling on the side of the highway with 2 white bitches in the back in his car, and this nigga went and ran over him. This is an 18-year-old white boy. What kind of hatred you got for black people at 18, nigga, when hip-hop is the thing that's running white society now? How can that be? Where's his parents? What was he learning? Who was he around? How is it that we can have another shooting in Virginia Tech? You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody talking about that. I saw that there was a black art on the news with that shit. Nigga came in there and shot up the school again, Virginia Tech again. This is the 7th time that they done had a wild shooting at Virginia Tech. What is on the curriculum there that is fostering serial Manchurian candidate killers? Any college, any school that has the word tech in it is associated and connected to intelligence agencies. Remember, I said that shit. This is a sickening problem. And the worst part of it, no one in our community, as much as we're talking, as much as we're whatever, we do not have any protocols in place to deal with this shit. To the point where we're almost ignoring all of these murders that's happening with these black people. They still ain't finding that serial killer in the East Coast that's cutting a black woman, putting them in bags, leaving them next to the garbage can and shit like that. They still ain't find her. Who's doing that? It's human. You're right. Somebody in the chat room, Smokes, you said, yeah, it's humanity versus technology. It's also God versus the devil. You know what I'm saying? There's also the real you versus the clone you that they're trying to get you to become complacent in that and join this race war with them. You understand? So that's going on. So big up to them people that's burning London down and all that other shit. That's what's up. That type of shit needs to be emulated wherever there is some sort of police brutality and ritual killings, because that's what's going on. And whoever joins these organizations, black man, black woman, unless you coming in on some spook was at by the door shit, it's like black people get in that shit and they become they become Pavlovian's dog. They become Pavlov's dog. They do anything and everything to show and prove it. When the white cops and the Nazi cops have already shown you, nigga, that they will shoot you too. They will kill you too as a black cop, as a black woman cop. They got a thing on YouTube now. They got a white woman beating the shoes off of this black man. Why is it always white people beating up black people, or black and white cops praying and beating on black people. And I'm supposed to act like racism don't exist? I'm supposed to act like I'm in this fake utopia where we all get along, where we all hearing about it, or will you focus too much on race or this, and that? Don't ever let nobody tell you it ain't about race that live in America, man. They're a damn lie. They are liars. It's always going to be about race when you have one exploiting the other. It will always be that. And white folk would rather a society like that than a society that's not like that. Why? Because in a society that's built on equality, love, security, love, peace, freedom, justice, equality, they cannot exist. Not because I hate white people, not because white people are the devil, even though that may, sometimes add to it. It's to, like they say, well, if he ain't the devil, he'll do to the real one get here. He'll do to the real one get here. Either way, what I'm saying, though, is that when it comes down to it, white folk is not checking white folk behind this shit. You don't hear no white ACL group jumping up in arms behind that. You don't hear no gay rights people coming out against black police brutality. There's no national referendum that there is a set given time. There's a set given time for how much time you're going to get if they find you with crack or drugs or anything else. There's no set time. There's no set limit. There's no penalization for police brutality in the United States. And the police kill on average 350 people a year. And of that, let's say 98% of them people is black. And yet you still got niggas joining the police, becoming a CEO, becoming a this, becoming a that. For what? Don't tell me it's for a job, man. Because like I said, you could become a garbage man and cake. Post office employees, clerks, make more than police. Teachers make more than police. So when you become that, you're becoming that for a reason. To either deal with whatever insecurity you got. You're not trying to protect nobody. Don't act like that, because I've never had a cop protect me. And I've lived in this country my whole life. I have never had a police officer help me. You understand? And I'm not saying that because I hate anyone or I hate police or I'm rabble-rotten. No. I've never seen a police officer help me or anyone in my given community. I've yet to see that. Yeah, that's the positive. That's the other shit they'll flip on you. You're not open to the experience of police helping you. I don't need that type of help. I don't need no Billy Club help like that. I don't need somebody helping me to the fucking...
Just because you were traumatized at 13 with a gun in your head doesn't mean that you have to write off every policeman as being bad.
It doesn't mean that.
There's some of them that are good
here. But it
here.
won't hurt if I do.
There's some of them that are good here for you. There's some of them that don't mean they accidentally put the gun to your head.
Exactly. And that happened when I was 16, by the way. But regardless of what, I ain't never had none of that. So I've yet to see it. So it seems to me that things are just getting worse when it comes to that aspect of our community, yet we have no thing. Meanwhile, the Jews, who got their own police force, is now being investigated based on human trafficking and child ritualistic satanic sacrifice based on this Hasid that they found out, because now they're tracing his bank statements, his records back. They place this nigga in Bangkok, and you know about all the child pornography and the child killing over there in Bangkok, but they also trace him to places like Langley. And you know what's in Langley? We all know that Langley is a center for CIA. So again, we all know then it's automatically given then that CIA is involved with human sex trafficking for money. Everybody knows that. We done seen the movies on that. Yet still, niggas are still joining CIA. And that's not even a part of the United States government. But white folks is totally okay with it. They totally okay with keeping things the way they are. And these black abolitionists, what you call it, what's the other, sympathizers, collaborators, they will go all out for them because they would rather be the pet of the devil than the food for the devil. You understand? It is real, man. It was real. So again, these cops going to get convicted on civil rights, which means they ain't going to do no time. Do you remember how it was when the riots in L.A. popped off? I remember. I remember how it was. So based on that, they created a situation now where we had them people scared to death. The country was about to be in total ruin. Right? But what happened? What happened? As many times as I've seen militant brothers and these people on YouTube with guns and all that type of shit, I don't see nothing changing. You know what I'm saying? They're using them guns to run on the devil. And I know you're not because you on YouTube showing me these shit. Whereas the white boys, the white people, they don't have no problem killing your babies. They have no problem with it. And if they're not killing them, they adopted them. You see what I'm saying? But you don't ever hear about no black people adopting no white babies. Why is that? Because black people don't want to adopt no white babies. They don't want to do that. After the whole Haiti thing, me and the Queen, me and Selena went down there to try to adopt 2 babies. We've been married for 10 years. Now I know they put the bug on because now I'm talking about it. The shit is echoing. We've been married for 10 years. You understand? They want some like, nah, we don't, nah. But then the same day, maybe 2 months later, we were there and it happened to be a lesbian couple there. And we there with them, and they wound up giving them the baby, giving them babies, letting them adopt it. So if I point that out, am I being racist? How can I be racist when I'm the one at the brunt of the racism? Here it is, I'm working to take responsibility for black children or whatever, that whoever don't want to do, and it's still not enough because they don't want nobody that's positive and conscious, raising no conscious black child. They don't want that. They want you to believe what they got in that billboard in 42nd Street, which is the most dangerous place for a black child with their own hair, whatever to be, is in a black moon. And black women, and nobody's protesting that. Nobody's jumping up saying, take that billboard down. You let them put a billboard up talking about the worst place for them to be, the worst place for a child to grow up is in a Jewish woman's womb. What? They would burn down the billboard, the nigga who drew the billboard, the company that sponsored it. And what's sad is that that's actually true. How about that? And if it's not, then how come their birth rate is still 0? Don't believe me? Go to the U.S. National Population Index. Don't believe me? White folk still falling down. Their birth rate still 0. So it is to say that, you know, genetically, as much as they want to get rid of us, we still here. But it is also something to say that those of us that's here, though, if we ain't doing shit, you see what I'm saying, we might as well not be, you know? So, the other thing that's going on that I peeked in the news is that they got the, also, if you want to check the tax records to also, for whatever paperwork you find, to let them know that you know that the United States and Britain, the United States never broke away from Britain, you can go to the tax rules, through the IRS rules, or what they refer to as OBM 1545-0902. It's funny that it's OBM, which basically are the letters that, you know, the 3 main letters in the rule of Obama, which is real funny. Also, if you look at Forms 8288-FRPTA, as well as you look into United States Code, Title 18, USC, you could verify it in that. And I think that's it with that one. Yeah, that was it with that one. I also think that the thing in the UK is in response to the fact that it's funny that in Parliament there are at least maybe 10% of the people in there is Muslim, that's holding sway in Parliament is Muslim, and they are now pushing to get Sharia law in the UK, meaning that they want the law of the Quran to be put forth as analogous law to admiralty or whatever else, or even to replace admiralty, which may not be the best idea because, again, any law that's based, again, in a theocracy type movement is potentially corruptible based on the pretense of humans to use ecclesiastical doctrine or law as a means to promote and dominate other people's will who don't believe in a God. So I don't know how much that is. But one of the proponents of that, they're saying is related to the young man they bodied. So this could also be a political thing that they're using to charge up with the people to basically start to really, again, foment a race war out there. So with all of the heat, with everything rising up and everything, coming to such a crescendo, this is really a good time for you to really do the knowledge, because also we happen to be into a retrograde period right now. And this retrograde period, I don't know about y'all, but it's deep. It's deep. You know what I'm saying? So it gets to the point. So it's getting to a point where we have to, begin to really understand how these things are going to play out. Retrogrades are horrible when it comes to initiating new material or new things with people. You know what I'm saying? But doing new things with people. But at the same time, it's really good for corrections. But this retrograde, you know what I'm saying, is very direct. You know what I'm saying? And those of us that have Mars, you know what I'm saying, Mars in Cancer opposing Pluto, that may exist in Capricorn, that may be coming into effect from the 2nd to the 20th, is exact on the 11th. So the 11th is a heavy aspected day, so you got to really be careful. So this is the time that you're going to be feeling a lot of inner tension, agitation, angst, pent-up frustration based on things that you see going on outside. So now is the time when you see things happening, let's say, externally from you, you might feel more inclined to say something now than later, than at any other time. You may not really be affected. Like a lot of people are so desensitized when it comes to things like police brutality and stuff. They'll see this shit and just kind of like turn a blind eye to it. But when I saw it, it really heated me, man. It really heated me, especially the fact that this thing is such a rampant thing now that for us to be able to actually have something, this is the best time for us to have something like a so-called black or ghetto police force that just deals with the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? The same way that these Jews and these other communities have their own police is the same way we can have ours, but we're the only ones that don't, us and the so-called Hispanics. Us and the so-called Hispanics. You know what I'm saying? So within that, the Chinese, they got their own police force. You know what I'm saying? Everybody but us. And so because we are the most preyed upon, you have to understand that this thing is not a foregone conclusion. It's still time. The fact that the Jews have a police force, and that police force is actually imposing its will on the Jewish community. You have young Jewish women that's being raped in the Hasidic community, that's trying to report rape, that's being physically molested by their fathers, their grandfathers, that's being beat up, physical domestic abuse, that's being sold into slavery, into slave rings that are connected through human trafficking by way of Mossad and CIA and these other people using these individual Jewish groups or rabbi groups as a means of front. Now, again, I'm not saying all Jewish people is doing that. I'm talking about the ones that's doing it, though. But the thing is, they got it so hooked up where if you talk shit about one of them, you're talking about all of them. We have the same thing. It's just reversed in the fact that when one of us get caught up in something, they use that one as an example to represent why all of us think shit. And that's not cool. So if these people can have a police force that basically protects them, and then the other aspect of it is them antagonizing and terrorizing brothers in the hood, to the point where they buy old police cars and old police, like those little putt-putt carts that they be in. So they work with the city, which means that they get an endowment from city politicians to do what they're doing. And you know what? That also means black politicians is supporting that shit. So why would I give a damn if Charles Barrett is trying to become a damn a congressman or a senator? What is he going to do? He's not going to do nothing for the community. None of these niggas are. Sharpton ain't going to do nothing for none of these people do anything for us. Anything. Once you get to the level and you start making out-of-control dough on that TV, you are working with them. That's how they've structured it. And even if that's not how it is, that's how they're putting it out there. It is. So that's how it is. Because to the 85, perception is reality. So that's what it is. So what's worse, us talking about it or them doing it? And that's what I mean about this retrograde. It's great for corrections in this way. You know what I mean? Being that it's going to last until the 26th, at least the Mercury retrograde going to last till the 26th. You're going to have heavy bouts of reflection, like people from your past may come up. You know what I mean? Also, we're in the second month of Jason, about to go into the third month, the S month of Jason, which again is a heavy ritual sacrifice month. So in that now, we're doing. You got to also look at the first part of it, which again is the 2nd to the 8th, and you got to look from the 8th to the 26th. During the second part of it, though, the Mercury is going to be in Leo. You know what I mean? From the 8th to the 26th. So this is how you're going to start to build on how to deal with all this creative energy that you may get inspired by all of this bullshit that you see going on. You know what I'm saying? Now is the time that you got to do the knowledge to it. You know what I mean? The creative energies that are abound right now are off the chart. This, coupled with the fact that they are having huge problems in trying to figure out how to deal with this Elenin thing, which is really, really an issue for them now. Now it's had different names that we've been coming up with throughout the years. In the Bible, they refer to Elenin or the common Elenin or that thing that you refer to or that they're referring to as Elenin as wormwood. In Zechariah Sitchin's shit, he's referring to it as Planet X. But you got to remember, everything that Zechariah Sitchin put out there, a lot of it is bullshit, just based on the fact that he was created to be a destabilization agent of information pertaining to the celestial bodies in the heavens as it pertains to us metaphysically. You understand? He's a liar, too. We as original people, we need to stop bigging up these Caucasoid New Age people when all of these guys is basically coming out of the same Golden Dawn Nazism that all of these politicians is coming out of. And some of them is even related to them. Like I said, Jim Morrison's father of the Doors was the one who, his father, Admiral Morrison, was the patsy and the guy that they used to set off the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which was a false flag incident, in which the United States faked itself getting attacked by attacking its own ship, and then that's what led to the Vietnam War. And in history, you know what happened with that. So this country has a long history of manifesting and creating its own enemies. You understand? This country don't fight no enemies that's real. You understand? They fight enemies that they create. You understand? They don't fight nothing that's actually out there. When North Korea talked about how they was going to nuke these niggas got real quiet, and all they started talking about was Iraq. All of this is pertaining to the retrograde, though. All of this is in the retrograde period because those who do not know the past are what? Doing to repeat it. And this is what this whole aspect of it is now. You know what I mean? Another downside of it is that there's going to be a heavy, as always, there's going to be a heavy problem with taking shit the wrong way, hearing people the wrong way, not really understanding what people are saying. So now, again, is the time for us to start to practice active listening. You know what I mean? We're actively listening to what it is we have to do. So we got to do the nods to that. Also, now, on the 30th, going all the way up to December 24th, we got Jupiter going retrograde, okay? So this 4-month period is going to be next level. You're going to watch a lot of new, you're going to have like a lot of new values. You're going to have people pumping like new type of religious views. You're going to have people trying to promote aspects of themselves as Christ or God, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Right now, though, because Jupiter is currently in Taurus, this is about learning about how expansion can be almost joyous, you know. So getting in situations where understanding that an expansive nature can be good when it comes to good things, whereas when it comes to what we would consider negative things, negativity always has to have a limitation. Yet in the world we live in, it seems the opposite. It seems good is on a hiatus and evil shit is off. But that's really majority based upon TV. If there was no TV, these people wouldn't even have it locked the way that they do right now. You understand? The TV is one of the main artifices, one of the main instruments of control that unfortunately is a double-edged sword in how it's used. You know what I mean? So like I said, this is the time that we need to really look around us and pick that which is the most definable and fucking with that. Also, Somalia, based upon the inference of Europe waging war, there was a war declared. I don't know if y'all know this. You got to check the UN record, but the UN, 5 member countries of the UN basically declared war on Somalia as a country, and they are now working to further the genocide. You know what I mean? And they're basically using the whole pirate thing as the impetus to give them the right to go in and do the genocide thing. So for those brothers and sisters in Somalia, we would definitely want to give you respect, shout, and send you some power and support. Those fishermen who are brave enough to pick up arms and jump in little boats and defend their country and their beachhead and their beachside from Western nuclear aged countries coming and dumping their waste on the shores of Somalia on behalf of the American government. You know what I'm saying? Again, your boy ain't doing nothing about that, to the point where they said they got a new trail of tears that go from the tip of Somalia all the way up through Kenya now, how they got the black water running amok, killing people wholesale and shit over there. You got people over there cutting people's lips off, cutting people's eyelids off, that type of shit that'll never heal. You understand? That's all Mossad right there. That's all Mossad tactics. That's all Krav Maga. That's all of the shit that they be doing. You understand? So let's keep it real as to who's, and who's not doing what. Because that's the only way we'll be able to sustain ourselves in an amicable fashion that will allow us to discern what's really going on and what's happening. You know? So, within all of that, that's going on, Virginia Tech, Africans. The other thing, dealing with the whole debt ceiling thing. All right? Now, you must have heard that standards important. Now, this is funny because this is all directly resulted in the retrograde. Right? Now, Jupiter is going into retrograde, right? Say again, babe? I did. I told him. As it goes into retrograde on the 30th, it's going to be there till December 24th, right? Now, Jupiter is expansion, right? But because it's retrograde, this is a situation where the energy of the sign of expansiveness is going back in itself to re-expand aspects of itself based upon how they've basically muddled up their finances. But Jupiter, like I said, as expansion means also the expanded aspect of wealth that has now been severely limited based upon the re-aspect of their credit rating. Now, what's happening is that one part of the United States government wants it to default. They want a default. Whenever you hear these people bring up the Constitution, you also have to understand that these people who talk about the Constitution using it, they hate it. They hate the Constitution, you understand? And I'm not a fan of it either, you know, other than the preamble to the 7th article that puts us as indigenous people. But even aside from that, it's not really worth the paper that it's written on just due to the fact that it's not infallible. They hate the Constitution because it don't give them the ability to further destroy and bankrupt the United States. What they got to do is they got to find ways to get the United States to bankrupt and destroy itself. So one way to do it is with this debt ceiling. Now, the United States has a referred to as coupons that come in around August, right before September. And they have to renegotiate and pay those things, because if they don't pay those things, then what happens is just like you. If you don't pay your light bill, eventually the whole shit will go out. So essentially they've created a situation now where, based upon their credit rating falling down, they have to raise interest rates. But if this also is proof in fact, in law, to show you that this nigga that they call the president is not really the president of what people refer to as the United States. He can't be. Because as the president of the United States, it is illegal. You hear this? It is constitutionally void, constitutionally illegal for the United States to declare bankruptcy, to default on something. Why? Because in order to do that, that would mean that the United States openly went against the founding of what the planters, a.k.a. the founders, decided. Therefore, that would then mean that those people who are sitting in Congress, House of Representatives, government, presidency right now are all actors who really are working as foreign agents, because all of them are esquires. To be an esquire means that you are a foreign operative of the Queen and is what is referred to as a barrister majesty. Therefore, you are a foreign power trying to extend its jurisdiction over people in the United States. This is all under the presumption as if we're looking at the history thing to say that, you know, they broke away from London or from United Kingdom when they really didn't. But even if they was to come out and say, okay, we broke away, we didn't never broke away from them, we're still a part of England, they'll cop to that quicker than they cop to them being in bed with the Pope or being, you know, in debt to the Pope, because that's who really is running all of this shit for them. You see? So technically, any so-called sitting president or person in office right now is a legal criminal. They all, if the United States was to go into default, what that would have done was expose the fact that they are not representatives of the United States as we understand the Republic, but to be United States as incorporated through the Bank of London, through Lloyd's Bank of London. So that means that these people, again, are committing treason. You see? Because a real financial advisor for the United States would know that only Congress has the ability to borrow money. Yet still Congress is not the one dealing with it. The Senate was the one dealing with it. How can that be when Congress, according to their Constitution, are the only ones who have the ability to settle debts and print in coin money? That means that if the Senate is doing it, the Senate is doing it on behalf of the Fed. Therefore, they are all foreign bankers. They are all foreign representatives. They are all committing treason, and they are all enslaving the American people to a false version of the United States itself. I've already given you the statutes to show you in law that it's already been proven that, one, they never broke away from the United States. Two, they've never been sovereign. Three, now they've hooked up with the UN and the IMF. Therefore, there is no Secretary of Treasury. So who is giving you your charge back for those people that's trying to do that? Where are you getting the money from? Who's sending you money? How are you writing all of this off when the same people who have the power to associate that for you are now in control of the guy that's supposed to do that for you on your behalf? How can the IRS really be your friend if the IRS was set up to take your money? How can you rescind something that never belonged to you? This is the time in this retrograde period we can reevaluate this thing and actually start to correct a lot of this bullshit, which is why I'm going through it. Because you got Venus and the Sun in Leo until the 21st. Well, maybe it's more like the 23rd. On the 23rd, misunderstandings that will occur will manifest, in a sense, in that Leo aspect, and will kind of go to the volume 0 to 10 based upon the fact that Leo is exalted in Jupiter. So anything that you deal with, and remember, Leo is based in pride. Also, the detriment in Leo is hubris, which is false pride. So now is the time where people who feel like they're a lot smarter than they really are is about to get checked on their shit, and they're not going to like it. A lot of people that try to put it out there that they're for the community and they're really out here trying to act like, they're giving words of wisdom, they're going to be revealed to be charlatans. You know what I'm saying? And they're not going to like it, and it may erupt into some bullshit here and there, little pockets of conflict. Because now is the time that those of us that don't have the substance but have been acting like we got it, we're starting to be beset by ancestral memories of the fact of we don't really have it, and we're not really living what we say we are. You see? And a lot of people a lot of signs that deal with denial. You know what I mean? There are certain signs that have issues with denial more than other signs. You know what I mean? Those signs in particular need to really, really pay attention to how you're feeling, and don't allow your mood, just because you may have, let's say, got your feelings hurt by a situation, does not necessarily mean that the people in that situation were purposely out there to hurt your feelings. You see? It's a very fine line right now, So, again, those of us with Mars and Uranus and Pluto, you got to really watch out. You know what I mean? The funny thing is that this month's new moon is going to come up in Virgo, you see? So this is a mutable sign, but this is also a sign that is Earth. It's about being grounded in things, So this is a good time to deal with, health, diet, idiosyncratic routines, exercise, services, you know what I mean? New goals, you know what I mean? Starting fresh, Definitely whatever you're going to start new after the retrograde. If you've already been doing something through Mercury retrograde, you can continue to do it, but whatever it is, it should be put out after the retrograde stops, at least in Mercury. You know what I mean? So, now is the time that we have to tread very lightly because, again, Mars is going to square Uranus. Mars is initiation, work, Aries. What have you done? What can you accomplish? One of the detriments that people born under Mars can have, specifically Aries and sometimes Scorpios, is that Aries can be real good at initiating shit, but the follow-through is when you get caught up. And that's because a lot of Aries don't like being put in leadership positions, even though they are usually always the leaders in it. You understand? Because the universe is forcing you to adapt to your position in life. Uranus, which is the planet of uniqueness, readjustment, retuning, and reorganizing aspects of things and learning how to be unique, is going to oppose Pluto. So you have this universal feeling that we in the species mind pattern of original people feel as wanting and yearning to breathe free of all this bullshit. And then on the other side now you have Pluto, who is the planet of the underworld, who is there to basically kind of undermine aspects of that, not because that's what it's doing, but because most of the powers that be, most of the schemes that they did when Pluto was in Libra during the past maybe 50 years, up until I think 79 when it switched. So you have a lot of volatile energy. So for those of us that have Uranus, Pluto, and Mars in your chart like that, you need to watch the degree and where it is in the moment, because you don't want to get too caught up that during this transit you transit out, because that's what transits are there for too. A lot of people decide to leave and return to the Amenta through transit, you know what I mean, or during transit periods, which is why they're called transit. You know what I'm saying? So we need to, be aware of that and stay abreast of these things in our lives, so that way we don't wind up taking ourselves out behind some stupid shit that really has nothing to do with us, but more to do with what we perceive to be us. Because remember, the part of you that did not fully incarnate physically here is still out there and coming closer to you in the form of this Nibiru, Elenin, Wormwood, G19, Planet X thing. So again, now is the time for us to really, really pay attention and do the knowledge to the shit, because it's upon us, man. Let's look at something else real quick. Oh, yeah. So, getting back to the whole debt ceiling thing, what that's going to do is it's going to raise everybody's interest rate. And because this dude did it, there was a website that you could go to and check. It's referred to as called What a Real President Would Do. I think you'd have to Google it. What a real president would do in a debt crisis. And it can lay out basically all he had to do, if he was a real president, if he was really sitting as president of the republic, would be to declare a clean bill. And what a clean bill is that it's basically an open or blank bill that they just put out there to say that they're going to redo and clean out all of the bullshit that happened up until this point. And all I got to do is basically declare that that's what he's going to do, and then all issues with holding and all that get frozen until the bill is completed, no matter how long the bill is. So basically what that means is that the debt ceiling is frozen. They don't even have to raise it up again so long as he would put out a clean bill. He didn't do that, because to do that, you got to be elected to be the president of the United States, and this nigga was not elected. I hear all of you black people that voted for him, but them votes, that don't mean nothing. More people voted for the other asshole, Clinton, more than Bush, and he still got in. And the only reason why this dude got in was because at the time that the country was basically in shambles. It was about to be done, because people were tired of these white males fucking everything up. So white males understand the G. They said, well, this is a decline period for us. So in this decline period, let's give them what they think they want, which is a black leader, black president, and then he will basically castigate them and keep them satiated until the time we come back up, and then we get rid of him and then put another white man in. And that's what's going on right now. Only problem is they don't realize that now that they done elected somebody else or let somebody else sit up in there like that, you can't really go. Once you go black, you don't go back. You know what I mean? And that's real. You can't get no white boy up in there like that. Especially with all these white boys killing all of these people and all that now. Most you could probably do is get you a white woman. So they got this chick named Michelle Bachmann, see, who is on the fast track to becoming the new Palin. But Palin ain't going to have that. So she's going to do what she can. Every once in a while, she's going to come in and do whatever to castigate and throw shade on what this shorty's doing. But this chick is crazier than her. This chick talking about black people had it good during slavery. This chick talking about all types of crazy shit. But again, she could do that because she's Tea Party back. And these white folk love to be in situations where they can show and prove to people what they are and who they are as a means to support white dominance. White people don't have these people don't who consider themselves white, and when I say that, I'm talking about black people too. I'm talking about Korean people too. I'm talking about Asian people too. I'm talking about Native so-called American people too. They just put out a thing that the Native Americans, I was just talking to a Seminole brother out here, he was talking to me how he's like, he maybe get kicked out of the tribe because he's too dark. And the new shit is they're getting rid of all of the dark-skinned Indians because they only want BIA, meaning Bureau of Indian Affairs, card-carrying Indians, to be represented as natives, as Aboriginal or Autonomous Americans, which is bullshit. But again, what are we doing? Whenever you see Moors in the news and they talk about that, they keep using trigger words, bogus filing, bogus paperwork, frivolous paperwork. But in Black Law 2nd edition, frivolous means that it's too hard for them to understand. It don't mean silly. Just like in the first Black Law edition, says that silly means rich. So if you're silly, that means you're rich. According to Old English law. So family, the dire straits that we're in for a moment, but we're in it for a reason. And that is the ancestors and everything is putting it out there for us to straighten it out, for ourselves at least. The delusions of grandeur of all of us as black people in the planet rising up and putting white people under us, that's not going to happen because you have too many black people who identify with being white now. The other thing about that they're going to tell you about the skin bleaching creams that they're using, they got a bunch of, Ambi, that's bleaching cream. Okay? African Pride, that's bleaching cream. All of the stuff that they got for you black women to talk about is going to help even out your blotchy skin as if melanin is mad blotchy. No, what makes melanin blotchy is your diet or your revulsion to it. So, no. But they're not telling you that the skin bleaching cream that's promoted by these people is also not only bleaching your skin, but it's also deteriorating the dermis under the skin. So you're not only bleaching the skin that you see optically, you're bleaching the skin inside of you. And then what's happening is that it's having adverse effects in some women, and it's causing them to have pieces of their skin chip, flake, and fall off. You heard? Just like they got some type of new cocaine. Those people that's nose head, you got to watch out, son. They got a new strain of cocaine that already, not only are they leaving the worms and shit in it, they're putting new biologically created shit in it. And it's literally people are using it and parts of them are falling off. Nah, because these people hate their melanin. But that's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of black people that hate themselves, man. There's a lot of white people that hate themselves. There's a lot of people, period, who hate themselves. But for some reason, when it comes to us, we are always dejected to the bottom. And that is racism within itself. So if the civil rights movement, which was the basis for all other political movements that came after it, for them to get recognized, and we are the last to do that, that means that the shit was never for us to begin with. That means we played ourselves and investing energy and time in that shit. So that means all that shit that we was doing, all that marching, all that shit we was doing, what has it gotten you? How are you better? With all the black millionaires, all the original people millionaires that exist in this country, how do you see what any of them are doing benefiting you? If one of us ain't all right, we all fucked up, and vice versa. However, at the same time now, one of us or us has to be representative of those people that's on the frequency like you. You can't get caught up in the fact of how dark they are, how light they are. You got to just deal with the individual in front of you and listen and not get caught up in the window dressing as to who they are. You understand? The other aspect of the debt ceiling thing is that they're not talking about is that this happened before, back in the day, but it happened around the time of Jefferson when they were basically around the time of the War of 1812. They wanted to set up another foreign bank, and Jefferson and them through Jackson was like, "Nah, I'm not having it. You're not doing it." Jefferson and Madison, two of their biggest luminaries, two of the most depraved pieces of crap that you'll ever see in the world in history, regardless. You know, you can't tell them nothing about their white gods. But in that, these two horrible men in life were both being handled by the same guy, who was an international banker named Albert Gallatin. Some people call him Gallatin. And this guy was their handler. He was the one who was pushing for the United States to go default during the time of that War of 1812 because he was being bought and paid for by Jacob Astor through a bank called the Girard Bank of Philadelphia. And the Girard Bank of Philadelphia was the Astor front that they were using to help set up the U.S., what would eventually become the U.S. Reserve Bank at the time. When they torpedoed that deal, that's when the War of 1812 went down, when they decided to go in and burn down the Universal Apprentice Hall for the Science of Law and Government, that today we call the White House. After it was rebuilt, it was called the White House, but that's not what it was up until the War of 1812, because that's where a lot of the records was. Also, when you do the historical reference and research on it, you will find that at the time that this happened, the Library of Congress that was just being established mysteriously had a fire. And the beneficiary of the library who was paying for it getting it done was a guy named Thomas Jefferson. So who collected on the insurance money from the Library of Congress burning down after the War of 1812? Thomas Jefferson. You understand? There's nothing wrong with calling shit as you see it. It's just that right now, like I said, just be careful due to the volatile nature of Mars, Uranus, Pluto, Jupiter. The littlest shit can just expand to something like extra crazy. So choose your words. Don't cast your pearls to swine. Don't waste time on people who don't deserve it. And allow yourself the luxury of becoming an active listener. This is the best time between now and at least the 26th of August. Practice listening to what people say. Because they will tell you their whole intentions with you just by talking, if you just let them talk, yo. You understand? Yeah. Because this is a heavy period in Jason. This is the second month of Jason. This is the A month. So they got to get as much rituals in before they get into September and starts. I think Samhain. That's going to start. Beltane. Yeah, Samhain is going to start September. So they got to get as much rituals in so that way they can bring it up for a crescendo in August for Beltane. And then in the last month, November, that's when they basically sum it all up with Imbolc. Which, again, are ancient Druidic seasonal aspects of holidays that when we were referred to as Druidic, Celtic, Britons, or Pictish people created for the people who have kicked us out of places like Ireland and all that for later, for them to then come in. Yeah, Jason stands for, the Jason months represent July, August, September, October, November. These Jason months fall under the auspices of what they refer to as the Jason Society, that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. The Jason Society is the head of all of the occult, demonic, technological advances. Exactly. Jason and Friday the 13th. Exactly. Mariam. Exactly. You see? That's why Jason don't die in the movie. You see what I'm saying? He always come back to life. He always kill people because that's the ritual of him to be that. He is the physical embodiment of these 5 months. Jason, and then again, the J, if you switch the J, like Locke and Elias said, you switch the J with an M, says it all right there, you know. But again, when you're not under the jurisdiction or under the auspices of any oath or obligation that you have taken to some other person to uphold one of their secrets and not your own, you are free to say what you want. Let's see. See if we get some calls. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get into some calls real quick. Pete, you on Super Heru Radio? 718.
Hello?
Pete.
I do?
I can hear you, boss.
Oh, I didn't press the, I didn't mean to listen. I'm just listening. I have a question.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you for calling anyway, though.
All right, thanks, man. I'll me on hold, please.
No doubt. All right. Steve, 901. You on Super Heru Radio?
Hello?
Steve.
What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, boss?
No, I was watching the news last night, and I was trying to see like what's over there in London, like with all them black people, like they bombing and terrorizing the people in London, the black people in London. So you think that's coming to America next?
Well, the people in London is in retaliation to to the killing of a brother they went out there. But it's also probably a staged event or an instigated event by members of MI6 that's trying to set up a race war based on what they're doing with the police brutality and black killings out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're all kind of connected.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking all this connected, and I know if they're doing it over there, it's going to soon be over here next.
And you don't really hear about a lot of police brutality coming out of London. Not saying that it don't happen, but you don't really hear about it like that.
Yeah, and it's only the poor black. It's only in the ghettos over there, so I know.
That's right. That's right. Because the British, their racism is based on titleism more so than white. Well, it's white supremacy regardless, but they're more focused in on titles. They like to act like they're better than American blacks. So whereas American whites discriminate on people based on color, British whites, they like to discriminate on people based on title and economic position. You see what I'm saying? So like certain people in Britain won't even fuck with you unless you got a title or something popping. So that's just as racist as everything else. But they like to make themselves feel like they're special. You see what I'm saying? Like they're different, like they're better.
Yeah, I understand
they
that.
Know now they ain't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had one more question for you too before I get out the line.
What's up?
I want to know, like with me, like I stay in Memphis, and you know it's still the South and it's very racist or whatever. But like it's like no matter where I go work at, it's like the crackers. Like I stay to myself, and I never say nothing to them. But the crackers always come bother me or find something negative or always trying to lay me off or something. And I wonder, I know what they are. I wonder, do they see the same thing that in me, even though when I try to avoid them at all times, but my spirit just, don't like them or know what they are. But I wonder, do they see that in me or what? Can they see that?
yes, white folk know who want to fuck with them and who don't. Because they're energetic. You're talking about an energetic, like, when you walking down the street, right, and you know, let's say if you may be running low on cash, you know when you're running low on cash, right?
Yeah.
So there's the same thing going on with them. They are running low on melanin or activated melanin. So when they see activated melanin or feel it from somebody else, they know that that's something that they need. Yet, if you're the type of melanated person, melanated being that does not want really to interface with them in any other way, that makes them uncomfortable. They respect that, but that makes them uncomfortable because they know they can't really feed off you how they gonna feed off the other house niggas that work there. So they find ways to get you to do something or create something as a means to get you to blow up on them, so that way you don't have to be there.
Yeah, and that's what happens.
Your presence, because they can't really dominate you. So if they can't dominate you, you're useless to them.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened because they fired me. They fired me that same day because I refused to. You know what I'm saying? You know, I got a family, so you gotta try to feed your family. But you know, I don't really want to participate in the system. But it's like you have to participate in this system, even though you're trying to find a way to get out. And it just like what you said, it's like no matter where I go, it's like they see that. They see that because I refuse to. You know, my spirit, even though I try to avoid them and don't say nothing to them, just do my job. But my spirit,
you forge you congenial, you do your job and keep it moving. I don't try to. I did the same thing. I could last no longer than a year. I teach in so many school districts just because after the year was up, I would have to go to another one because the niggas would be hating for the fact that I didn't have to do certain things that they had to do, or the fact that I wasn't trying to, like, go and get drinks after work and all that other shit. Some black people like doing that. Some black people like being, like, the only black person around them or, like, the only one or whatever. And we know these people because we've seen them. We work with them. And then when you come around,
they run like roaches when they see the white man come. It's like it really like we still in slavery, man. It's like we still on a plantation down here in Memphis, man. It's crazy. It is real crazy. I don't know how it is up north or where you at. You know what I'm saying? But it's like they still on the penitentiary. I mean, not in the penitentiary, but the plantation down here. Man.
That's right. Because
and
that's
they got
what it is.
You can't even hardly connect with people because your vibration be on something else, and they still on this buffoonery. You like, sometimes
they're trying to maintain
the battle.
They're trying to maintain the system. These are these people who, again, unless you join in these systems to figure it out and how to do things for your own people, the same way everybody else that joins up with any government organization or whatever do for their own people. Especially ethnic. Look at the so-called Hispanics. They don't even, that they scared to death of them. You know what I'm saying? Because they rebelling back. They saying we're gonna take California back. We the race. We saying, you know what I'm saying? So they're militant in what they do, but then at the same time they're political. Even African groups that come over here, people from Ghana, the reason why Africans don't be respecting the Black Americans because they know the Black Americans is still subscribing to a history in which they are saying that they are the refuse kicked out of Africa. You see what I'm saying? Black people in America, by saying that you're a slave, enslaved African and brought over here, African people who hear that or subscribe to that then look at you on an inferior basis. Why? Because they still deal with slavery and all that shit in Africa. They still deal with all that type of shit. Certain tribes and certain groups. You know,
I never. This outland right here, I never looked at myself. Everything you've been taught was a lie. So I know where I'm from. But what I'm saying is, you try to tell people that my whole family like disconnected from me trying to grow as a person and company. It's like you lose your whole family, man. Everybody think you're crazy.
Right, but that means that that's not your family. That means that that's the biological gene pool that you came from. That's not your family, though. Your family are the people who support you.
And that's very few, though, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand that. But I know. You think this monetary system, everything, are sure shut down and crash?
Have the what? The what system? The monetary system?
Yeah, how long you think before it just totally the dollar be worthless? I know it's like 20 cents now, a dollar. So how long you think before it gets bad?
It's going to keep deteriorating, though. It's
like I'm waiting on this, baby. It's like every day I'm waiting for this whole thing just to collapse.
You ain't the only one. Now you got these white folks that's what the Tea Party want. They want the whole system to just crash because then they believe that they can re-jumpstart it with them in control. And they don't even realize how they're being used and manipulated by the same system that they're supposed to allegedly be fighting against. But you can't be against the system and then try to integrate into the system to be against it. That does not work. And America is the only country in which people strive to do that. And any other country in the world, if the government ain't working for the country, the people rise up and get rid of it. And then constitute another one. Whether that one becomes better or worse than the other one is dependent upon the reason for the revolution in the first place. So nobody got no more reason to rebel or stand up to get their own community, their own society more than black people. But civil rights was the shit that was used to stop that and crush that in black people. And so now if you come out now as a black man and say that civil rights was one of the worst psychological operations ever run on black people, they'll try to say that you are a self-hating black person when you really saying the truth. That we were more advanced and more directed to ourselves and more direct in what we wanted to do as a community, as a people, prior to that.
Yep, back then when we had our own Black Wall Street, because now dogs don't stay in the black neighborhood 2 seconds. We don't own nothing.
That's what I'm trying to say. So this is at a time when you have the most black billionaires and millionaires and all of that in history. Niggas still ain't got shit. So what does that say? What does that say? That means that we really have not progressed. Some of us have, but the ones of us that have are the ones who decided to cash in off the rip. We want to basically get there by our own volition and not sell out and not cut other things out or whatever. We find it harder and it takes us longer because we're doing it for a better reason, a reason more so than just to be the black version of a white family. You know what I mean? Like the Cosby. Cosby was great growing up. We all watched it, and we all believed it. It was great because it upgraded the view that we had of ourselves up to the time from good times. But at the same token, it opened it up. Now we have this whole plethora of rich kids that's not being born in poverty no more. That's awesome. But what's happened is that they're becoming more disconnected from the black community, and the only inference and connection that they'll have with the black community is through shit like rap, hip-hop, which again is being used as a military, right? Which again is being used as a military application to dehumanize and mongrelize us as a people. So you don't have no real standing. You know, you have a black elite, like I said, but we don't have no black government. You see? So we can't have that. Well, not saying we can't, but you'll have original people who step up to try to stop you from doing that quicker than white people, because those black people who step up to do that, the white man know he's already got niggas in our community in place to come up and try to smash that. How do we go from Elijah Muhammad saying we need to be separate, you know what I'm saying, to become being separate but equal? Like, people don't see the correlation in that? No.
Yeah.
Because niggas want to get paid.
Well, and keep running to the polls and voting and living this imaginary life. So, you know. That's
it, man. Well, all we can do is continue to support each other and then formulate ourselves outside of this venue. And when that day comes, make it happen, you know?
I hope so. And if I'm wrong for, like, sometimes yawning, like, you know, yawning for death, like, you know, that soul will never die. But I'm talking about, like just die from this life right here. Is that wrong to feel that way? Like, you just tired of just living here, but you know you're not going to commit suicide or nothing, but you yearn for to be somewhere else.
You're just tired. That's the soul. That's the feeling that all of us have, that we know that this time period is over. It's already over. That's the other part of shit. All of it's already done. We just haven't caught up to the physical aspect of that because we live in the spirit realm. So our spirit supports our body. instead of our body supporting our spirit. So spiritually, we're already past this society, and in a society where we're all living together in peace, freedom, justice, truth, and equality. However, physically, where we are right now, see what I'm saying? We got to physically get there because physical time is way more laborious than spiritual time, you see?
Yeah.
So we almost have to be the beacon for these people to know, and just to be able, is something to be in a situation where everybody is conforming to one thing, and you being one of the few people to stand up and say, no, I don't agree with that shit. I don't agree with how things is running. I don't agree that people should be exploiting each other for knowledge and shit like that when knowledge is free. I don't agree with the police brutality and just turning a blind eye to that shit. You see what I'm saying? Because white people do that all the time. They'll do that for everything. They'll do that with everything. You know, even police brutality, if black people made more of an issue, but we don't. When we do, we take it to the next level, like Rodney King. You know what I'm saying? Or what's going on in London right now, which is what we're supposed to do. But if we had our own police force like we could do in every hood in America, this would not happen because our police force will protect us from the police.
And that's what we need. The only thing we got left is
niggas ain't going to do that. Niggas would rather join the army than start a revolution. Niggas would rather join the police than become a police officer for their own community. That's how it is. And that's because we as black people don't even see a way out of this shit. You know what I mean? So niggas done bought into it. They like whatever. But that don't mean it's true. I could walk down the street on my hands. I could walk to the corner store on my hands. But that's not the best way to get there. You know what I'm saying? I got legs for that.
Yeah.
So, thank you, my brother, for the call.
It's nice talking to you, man. I'm a big fan of you. I listen to you every Monday night and Fridays, man.
No doubt.
All right, peace to you and your family, man.
Thank you, King. You don't always have. Okay. The chat room is down for a second, but it's about to be right back up.
That's what they're telling us.
At least that's what they're telling us. 919 on Super Heru Radio.
Yo, peace, God. How you doing?
Peace, Lord. How you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you, Aseer, and thank you to your family for doing this show.
Thank you.
I got a crazy coincidence. I really just found out about Krav Maga, and you mentioned something about it a few minutes ago. That's just a funny coincidence. I was thinking about getting into that for a workout.
Say that again, brother.
All right.
Say that again.
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was saying I just found out about Krav Maga, and I was thinking about doing that as a workout and as to have a martial art. And it's just funny that you mentioned that. I just thought that was funny, cool.
Yeah, because that's the most hard shit. But Krav Maga is the guy who, how they always want to say that they invented everything by hybridizing styles and all that, but
right.
It always comes from an original place. You know what I'm saying? So it's, to me, the style is really not it, or where it comes from is really not it. It's just the fact that this is what they be using, and the tactics that they use when we hear things happen in the news, certain tactics are refined to certain groups. So, whenever you hear about, sudden car crashes or whatever, that's MI6. Whenever you hear about sudden heart attacks and all that, that's CIA. Whenever you hear them about freak accidents or unexplained events, that's NSA. You see what I'm saying? Everybody got their own version. So when you hear people, this person may have been killed in a scuffle or a certain fight or whatever, that's Mossad. You know what I mean? Insurgents, that's Mossad.
I was hurt. It was my understanding was that they had they claimed to have created it just because Israel was just getting started as a country, and they wanted to make a fighting style that even old people could use, because they had to have anybody in their army or something when they first started the army or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's
try to make it really accessible. But to me, it's just a patterned version, probably of some old technique that they had learned from those Moors during the years in which they was in conflict with the Arabs. You know what I mean? Because remember, all these people come from Europe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All Israelis come from Europe. So even though they may have been born in Israel, that's not where you're from. You from where your ancestors from.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So they still in debt. But it's a good style. It works. Whatever works.
That's what I was thinking of. Like, in this day and time, it's almost whatever works. You might put anything in your repertoire. I had another question, if I could ask you. Excuse me.
Please.
All right. So I'm a Gemini. I just could you give me anything, just maybe something general as to how Mercury being in retrograde affects a sign that is, I guess you say it's ruled by Mercury? Is that correct? I know you don't know all my information, but just based off me being a Gemini period, could you tell me anything?
Yes, sir. Gemini, again, is your ruling planet, so it's really about communication for you. So being that it's in a Mercury retrograde communication, you as a Gemini are going to be directly affected. So the effects of this may be seen as missed calls, dropped calls, calls going straight to voicemail when you got the phone in your hand, you coming up in other people's conversation, them calling you based on that, meeting people from your past, unresolved issues of dealing with communication or the lack of communication coming up. So now is a good time, like I said, for whatever corrections to be done in that. However, now is the time where a lot of people may misinterpret what you're saying off the top just because of the fact that this planet that sits on your throat chakra is basically going back into itself. So it's becoming more internal. Therefore, a lot of the communication that is external becomes muddled. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now is a good time to practice, like I said, like active listening. You know what I'm saying? When people ask you something, repeat it back to them and ask them if that's what they said. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ask somebody something if they're sure about something. Ask them 3 times. Because 3 is the number for surety. 45 is the number for memorization. So anything you want to remember, recite it to yourself 45 times. You probably never forget it.
Right.
So, so now is the time to kind of pay attention to that. Also, like I said, when people are speaking to you, also look at all of their communication. Because people can say things at this period, and it motivates you to do things, but then after the period is gone, you realize that there was no substance behind what they was telling you. So you wind up doing all this work for nothing. You know? So if a person's words is not matching up with their deeds, that's in the moment that they're dealing with. So they're talking about, how, much they love their girl or whatever, but then they talking to you on the cell phone on the way to they jump off house. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not, it's not adding up. So in that, it's not to judge the person, it's more to judge the person's actions and putting it and dealing with them accordingly.
Right.
As opposed to wanting some greater understanding to be understood by them, because now is not the time where they're going to get it. They'll get the reverse.
Appreciate that. I know you got a limited time. Can I ask you one more thing to see if you know anything about it?
Sure.
All right. So I don't know if it's just in the French Hall Lodge or if white people and white Masons have the same stuff. I've noticed on some cars, just recently in my neighborhood, the dude has a 33-degree symbol on his, I guess they call it a light on his car, a little symbol on his car. He has 33 degrees. He has a regular Mason little symbol on it, and he has it's a two-ball cane. I don't know exactly what it means. I think it has something to do with somebody in the Bible, but have you ever heard of tubal cane or two-ball cane, and do you know the science on that at all?
Yeah, the two-ball cane is representative of the time or the progression through life when you go from a child basically crawling, you know what I mean, to a man where you're walking, and then to almost a child again, to the point where you holding the cane. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a threefold understanding and a deeper allegory to the 33rd degree. However, all of that, in terms of the lights, they call those lights, that they put in their card, was it on the right side or the left side?
It was on the left side. He had the regular square and the compass with the G, the two-ball cane, and then the eagle that looks both ways or whatever for 33 degrees. Or whatever kind of bird it is, I think. Yeah, all on the left side of the car.
Okay, so he's going the Scottish Rite route.
Right, so he's a shriner.
Right, so he gets to the shrine where he gets the Assalamu Alaikum, and then from the shrine, then he moves up into the Scottish, or the Scout Rite, where now you're, in proposition to go into some of all of the real bullshit they got popping, you know? Because all of that stuff really has nothing to do with history. All of that stuff was added by Pike and later redone by Crowley. So all of it is satanically, dualically, Black Sun influence. So all of it in its utmost is going to be related to Hiram in the form of a black man being sacrificed constantly. So all of the police brutality rituals are all just Hiram rituals, you see, where you have the ruffian, you know, killing him or sacrificing him.
And trying to continue basically to suppress who Hiram is, the black man.
Exactly.
In this landmass, right?
Because Hiram is then Osar, or Osiris. So he's the ever-coming man coming out of, you know, the dead state into the living state to give birth to Heru. The whole purpose of the whole ritual is to stop Heru, which is the black child. So the black child was cool, and he could play in the PAL and all of that up until he turned 15, and then you start arresting him. But now that you know him, you see what I'm saying? You've already equated a system in which now these people are connected to the police like that. But the police in the white neighborhoods is totally different. And that's because the so-called original man is a second-class citizen. You know what I'm saying? In that, go lay down no more. You know what I'm saying? So essentially it just comes down to that. To people just not really understanding that that whole thing was really just created to civilize the devil. But now the devil is using it to civilize original people.
Do you think, do you lose your soul to deal with something like that? Or if a black person does join the lodge and goes to Scottish Rite and all, and does a Shriner and all that, are you losing yourself in that, or can you still maintain who you are, or be a more and deal in those circles? I guess you would say. I guess it's just an opinion thing.
Well, again, and you're right, this is opinion, you know, but my opinion specifically is based on talking to different brothers of different ages from different countries even, you know, who happen to be black men and their perspectives on it. And what I've seen, in my humble opinion, is that, yes, it is possible for you to retain that. And let's say come out of, let's say, the 5%, and you get into the Mason thing, you're going to rise direct to the top because you already got the 120. Well, more importantly than even the 120, the supreme math and alphabet and the workings of how to use that, you automatically go flip anything in terms of degree. However, through the oath, you don't know what goddess or god or daemon or demiurge that they use in the consecration of that lodge. Because every lodge that's really real on some Mason shit has to be consecrated through an occult sex ritual. You see what I'm saying? And if yours ain't, then it ain't, which then means that this is really dependent upon the efficiency of the ritual is then dependent upon the understanding of the people doing it. And to fully prepare for something like that, you have to be going through a series of checks and balances, not only on the actual creation of how that's going to happen, so that way when you induct the brothers, they all get a piece of the entity that was in through the oath. But you don't ask that. When you go and you finally go through it, you adjust to enter the apprentice, so you become nameless. So you become a host that they then can put the agenda of what it is you want by using your will to do it. You see? And then the ritual becomes the thing that embosses that to the soul, which then makes the contract physical and non-physical. But if you don't know, like I said, if it was a satanic thing done in the beginning, you now a part of that, and eventually, even if you stop going or whatever, you still were a part of that. See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And in the end, everybody's joint was messed up by Crowley and Pike. There's nothing after the third degree, which is the third degree. There's nothing higher than that. So all that other shit they doing is shit that they just have gotten from magical lodges like the original Golden Dawn under McGregor Mathers, who is the great-grandfather of Marshall Mathers, who we call Eminem.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you see the difference in level of success and how they flip their shit, you know what I'm saying, and how these so-called brothers are doing theirs. And regardless of who or what, that's still your Masonic brother. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you've taken the oath for him to be that. Even if you don't see it like that. Even if you just get, that's what you did. You see, because you're wearing the same apron that he wore when he was ridden across the hot Arabian desert by your ancestors who was not wearing no aprons. That's what told us, that's what distincted us and made us different from them, not only as to the phenotype, but into the political standing at the time by the ritual of marching them across the hot Arabian desert into the caves of West Asia that they now call U-rope. U meaning hillside, rope to bind in. Bind meaning the rope, which is why they use the rope when they ritualize Hiram, when they hang him from the tree of life.
Right.
They used to only hang niggas from sycamore trees. So the ritual and the allegory and why they did that is in the name. So this is the type of masonry that these white boys is dealing with. The black people, they're not dealing with that. They're dealing with what we're talking about, you see, because now is the only time in history that they've been able to realize the ramifications of this. And those of us that haven't, you see, should not be trying to like chastise them or make them feel whack for that, but to get them to let their guard down and be like, it's okay, man, but you got to come clean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just got to come clean, man. Just don't act like, you know what I'm saying, like I'm whack because I didn't do this shit. Or like I'm missing something because like I'm not in agreement with the foundation of it at this present time. That don't mean I can't build with you. That don't turn me into a profane, which is what they call people that's not involved with that.
Right.
Profane is the 85. That's what we call them. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Unless we resolve that, I don't know how we're going to even deal with the deeper esoteric shit, which is going to empower us to win the physical shit. You know? But thank you for that, brother. It was really, really good question.
All right. I appreciate it, Duke. Y'all have a blessed night, man.
Peace. You too, man.
Peace.
Peace. So, thank you guys for joining us again in the Discord. Anybody interested in our upcoming class on establishment of the self-executing family trust, holler at us at houseofl@hotmail.com. We're going to be starting on August 24th, so anybody interested to do that, which is, given the present political climate, the best time to do so. Also, anyone interested in some of our other lectures and stuff like that, you can check out www.aseertheducateers.com, as well as www.sagasod.com, big ups to Saga, as well as, again, holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com. That's HOUSEOFEL @hotmail.com, about our August 24th classes, and I'll send you the flyer, and we can get it popping. But, yeah, this debt ceiling thing, you're going to also hear them talking about eventually. Remember to listen out for the force du jour, but listen out for them to discuss the pending redistribution clause that will try to get them to do away with Social Security and welfare, which is what they want to do, which will then throw the country into utter rebellion. So, either way, this thing, they're working to turn this place to a third world country. So get ready, and there are ways that you can prepare. And one of these is what we're talking about with the class on the 24th. So, indeed, please be informed, stay blessed, stay black, stay powerful, stay melanated, stay dark matter, stay dark energy, stay yourself. Love who you are, love who you love your God, and be the best that you can be in whatever you're doing. Even if it's whack for somebody else, if you are really you and you're doing it for you and that's you and it's your talent, no matter how it comes from your creative source, no matter how depraved or whatever, it's going to manifest. And that's the reality of physical reality. So we probably need to stop bitching about how hard it is to manifest shit, just manifest it. So those of us that want to do that, holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com on behalf of the whole House of L, the Super Heru family. We say peace, and do with you next Monday.